me when you're ready. Good. All right, good evening, everyone. Thank you for joining us here in the audience and those of you online. Today is Tuesday, October 22nd, 2024, and we want to call to order the regular meeting of the South Utica Lyndhurst Board of Education. It is now 5:36. Mr. Hill, may we get a roll call?
Ms. Falkenberg?
Here.
Mrs. Jones?
Here.
Mrs. King?
Here.
Ms. Lee?
Ms. Lee is en route.
Mrs. Shelby?
Here.
Thank you for that. May we all stand for the Pledge of Allegiance?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Sounds so amazing.
Oh, man, I was thinking the same thing. Lost my ID.
All right, we can go right into 2.1, liaison reports. Do we have a legislative liaison report?
No, because they are on their break still. So by November, they will be back, I believe.
Why'd you say break? Did you say like break?
Okay. All right, do we have a student achievement liaison report?
Yes. I have a couple today. So, in Bay Village, the local Bay Village, they have students, oh, and I'm reading it off my phone, just everyone. I didn't write it down. Yeah, so they have middle school students repairing laptops for their classmates, providing valuable learning, and saving the district about $40,000 a year. It's a fascinating story because it illustrates school-based learning and it emphasizes like STEM theory and application for students. And the students themselves are certified by Acer, the manufacturer of the Chromebooks. Interesting tidbit. There was another story regarding an elementary school in Georgia. The students are mastering the craft of composting, like food composting, with the aim of reducing not only their own food waste, but also the food waste of their school. So, you know, these elementary school students, they come around with little pails at the end of lunch. They collect their classmates' uneaten food waste, and then they compost it, and they weigh it, so it helps them with their math skills and like decimals and like combining the decimal points, and it also introduces them to environmental concerns, environmental issues. There is a gardening component where they're actually growing their own food as well. Any unopened food waste, they either put it in the refrigerator, or if it's like shelf stable, they'll put it on a table in the hallway to help combat like food insecurity. For students who may still be hungry after lunch, they can then just, grab it. And then there's also, yes, so this program is actually funded by a grant from the World Wildlife Fund, specifically for food waste programs. And a lot of the feedback from the students was that it helps them realize, about food waste and just like the importance of food. Then the other side of it about food insecurity and how, children can't learn if they're hungry. Let's see. So yeah, a study told us something that I think we know already, but a study tracking about 814 children identify that opportunities predict later life success for children. So it focuses on like multiple opportunities such as after-school activities and high-quality childcare is more predictive of future success than like comparing poverty markers, which has socially been the marker for success. The research was published by the American Education Research Association that shows that students who have even a few opportunities have a significantly better economical and educational outcome. And then my personal favorite for this month was team-based teaching can support student learning and reduce teacher burnout. So it's a team-based approach. So instead of having a teacher being completely responsible for all children for the entire day, it deals with a teacher team. So teachers, paraprofessionals, and instructional coaches, they share responsibilities of a larger student group. So it shows a host of research, but showing that like it reduces teacher burnout, provides more emotional support for students, and it also helps with graduation rates, like student retention, but then also employee satisfaction with teachers themselves, and with backfilling any, teacher absences or filling for substitute teacher positions. Yeah, that
That's very
concludes
cool.
my report.
You came with the loaded report.
I did. I
Thank you
wrote
so
it down,
much.
and I didn't forget it. It's on my phone.
Thank you so much. Item 2.2, Superintendent's report.
Yes, good evening, board members, staff, community members joining us virtually. As I've been on this job now and had a chance to have boots on the ground, it's become clear that our focus must remain on continuous growth and improvement. That's why evolve with purpose, embrace the world our students live in, and prepare them for success is our guiding principle, and that will continue to be our guiding principle moving forward. With that said, I wanted to share some updates with you. Academics. Over the last few years, we've made much progress in advancing our academic programs to better serve our students and prepare them for future success. I'm proud to highlight some of the significant changes we've implemented that are already making an impact. And I feel like this is important because later on this evening, you're going to get a report card update from Mrs. Bastock. This year, we launched the new HMH reading and writing curriculum for grades K-8, which aligns with the science of reading. This new curriculum will aid us in improving literacy across the district, ensuring our students are developing critical reading and writing skills that will serve them throughout their academic years. At the high school, we have transitioned from semester-based classes to year-long courses. This structure will allow for deeper learning and better engagement, giving students the time to fully understand and apply the material while building stronger relationships with their teachers. For grades 1 through 3, we introduced departmentalized teaching for math and ELA. This has allowed our educators to specialize in their subject areas and provide more focused instruction, enhancing student performance in these core subjects, and at the same time, allowing teachers, once they have transitioned fully into it, to give them ample time to prepare instead of having multiple subjects. We've also integrated science and social studies standards into our STEM initiatives, encouraging cross-curricular learning, innovation, and critical thinking. This approach continues to enrich our students' educational experiences and better prepares them for future careers. We are also utilizing branching minds to further support student learning. This platform allows teachers to track and address student need more effectively, providing data-driven insights and personalized support to students who may require extra attention. Looking ahead, we are not forecasting any major new initiatives for next year. Our focus will be on mastering what we've already have in place. We want to get good at what we have. We believe that this is the right time to solidify our gains, strengthen our current programs, and refine our processes. Additionally, we'll be providing AI tools to assist teachers, helping reduce the workload of administrative tasks and offering valuable insights to enhance instruction. Second update is on Senate Bill 29. Now we're going to shift to an important legislative update, Senate Bill 29. As you know, SB 29 is the educational record and student privacy bill we discussed at our last meeting, which governs how technology providers in the school district handle educational records to ensure that student privacy is protected. The bill emphasizes that parents, not technology companies, should have control over monitoring their child's online presence. It ensures that educational records collected, used, or maintained by technology providers remain under the control of us, the school district. As part of this, parents, you should expect to see, you're going to see it Thursday, see the annual parent notice, which is now required by SB 29, be shared in their emails on Thursday. This will provide clarity on how student data is managed and ensure full transparency between the district and the families. I want to emphasize that our district is already aligning with the requirements of SB 29. We have been aligned with SB 29, and this just further demonstrates our cooperation and forward thinking, and we are working closely with our legal advisors to ensure full compliance. Last update, postcard and digital time. I'm also excited to announce that starting in November, we'll be sending out a postcard to all households in our district, featuring a QR code that links to our new digital SE School updates. This is an important step for us as we transition from sending hard copy newsletters to a digital format that's more accessible and much cost effective. Just for you, Hill.
Appreciate it.
Yep. Okay. The digital update will include highlights from the first quarter, my video message from the first 100 days, updates on curriculum and safety, and features on our extracurricular activities and programs across our district. Now, don't worry, if you prefer a hard copy, those will still be available upon request. But this change represents a huge cost savings for the district and allows us to provide more frequent update communication with our community. Just to clarify on the postcard piece, in the past, we've sent out the 3 or 4 page little pamphlet type of thing. Now, every household will get a postcard. It'll have a QR code on it. You simply just scan that QR code and it will take you right to it. And then again, if you need, if you like the hard copy, there'll be a way for you to contact us on that postcard as well. In conclusion, I want to express my gratitude to our staff and the leadership team over there. Our staff has worked tremendously hard. Our teachers have gone through an abundance of changes over the last few years in academics, post-COVID, and everything in between. And we've made significant strides in academics and are taking important steps to ensure student privacy and data through the SB 29. Moving forward, again, I want to emphasize this. We will focus on mastering our current initiatives, supporting our teachers with AI tools, and continuing to put students first in everything we do. And again, we'll continue to evolve with purpose, embrace the world our students live in, and prepare them for success. Thank you.
Thank you, Superintendent Kaple. Any questions?
I have a question.
Sure.
Okay. So for the postcards,
Yep.
moving forward, so will they receive one like each quarter?
Yeah, so we haven't set how many times we're gonna do it. We're looking at probably 3 times,
Okay.
similar to what we've done in the past, but we're just changing up the format a little bit. And so on those postcards, when they come to the house, again, the QR code will be there, and you scan it and take you to it looks pretty cool, I'm not gonna lie. Kristen's done a nice job, so I don't wanna share all the beans here.
I'm excited.
Yeah, it'll be nice.
So I do have a question. Will the postcards serve dual purposes? One, will it be used as a feature to see students reside at that residence?
No, this is going to all community,
So
Yep.
all community, okay,
Yep.
not just.
not just students,
Okay.
correct.
And then, I'll wait for it to come in.
Yeah.
That's gonna be cool. All right. Item 2.3, memorial update. I know it says Dr. Fuller.
Yep.
That's the wrong folder.
Yeah, so we changed it up a little bit. We're gonna do something a little different. Dr. Fuller wanted to do a video this time around, and she's at the beginning of it. And after watching it, I was like, it'd be kind of weird if you were here, because you're talking at the beginning of it. So we're gonna blast it out right here. So hopefully everybody enjoys it.
Will they move the camera to the screen?
It's on there.
I am a warrior. I am a warrior. I am a warrior. I am a warrior. Hi, welcome to Memorial Junior High, where we believe high expectations lead to Dr. Fuller, and I am the middle principal. The 24-25 school year began with a 7th grade transition day. This day was solely dedicated to our 7th graders as we taught them building procedures and expectations for a successful transition to junior high. I am happy to say that we are a welcoming, warm staff who work very hard to build a safe and inclusive environment in which all of our students can thrive. I hope that through the eyes of our students, you can see just what type of building we are.
My favorite thing about Memorial is all the freedom we have to.
What I like about Memorial is that we have classes that they are here.
My favorite thing about Memorial is the teachers and the principals.
My favorite thing about Memorial is how the teachers and staff treats all their students like they're their own kids and has respect for all of them.
The teachers care about your feelings. My favorite thing about Memorial is that the teachers, they are very nice and they will help you out if you just learn and pay attention to them. My favorite thing about Memorial Junior High is that we have cool staff. My favorite thing about Memorial is that everybody's kind.
My favorite thing about Memorial is the PTAs that they be hosting like every now and then, and the activities they have to do like the pep rally and the bonfires.
Hi, my name is Felicia White, aka Miss V. I am the student support specialist here at Memorial Junior High School. I'm here to talk to you briefly about our restorative circles in the school. Our restorative circles are usually requested by staff. The restorative circles are done to help resolve issues within the school. It's done with the teachers and the students. Our restorative circles are 99% effective. We found that if we split the students up into groups of girls and boys, the girls with me and the boys with Mr. Mammal and Mr. Winters, it seems to be more effective. The students open up more, and they seem to be more empathetic and respectful towards each other or the staff. What I like about the restorative circles, it allows me to build a rapport with the students as well as the staff. Also, it allows the staff and the students to build a rapport with each other.
So just to show you where you are on the project. So we just created the project workspace, and now we're opening up the original. Remember, this is just going to be used as a template. So what I want you to do, last week you all should have saved the original photo in your project folder. So let's open those up. First of all, press V to make sure you're on the move tool if we're going to move something. Then you're going to press Control O. Click on this PC. Open your Z drive. Open your digital art folder. Open your project 2 folder and find the movie poster that you are using. So I'm using Shrek. So you're going to drag the tab down and drag it in. Now when you resize it to fit, so guys, pull the tab down. You're going to move it into your
All right,
workspace.
so the climate at Memorial this year has been amazing. We've seen a huge improvement in student engagement and even, teachers' overall attitude. I think the cell phone policy is working great. There's been so much less distraction by cell phones, so it's really been a great start to the year. My favorite thing about Memorial, I think, is the camaraderie with the teachers. I feel like everybody supports everybody, and we always have people to lean on and ask questions and collaborate with, so it's a great place to
One
be.
thing I like about STEM is our 3D projects that we make. We make it on the computer, then we put it in a flash drive, and then we press them off in the library.
We've been learning about how to manage our emotions and how our actions can affect others negatively and positively. I like how respectful our teachers and how understanding the student can be.
Hey, what's going on? It's Mr. Jackson and your favorite athletic director at Memorial. Yes, you see what's around my neck. It is our new program this year. We have what is called our Art Student Athlete of the Week. I don't know if she's zooming in on this beautiful chain. We've already had multiple athletes have opportunity to be pictured and wearing this for their outstanding athletic accomplishments throughout the season. Be on the lookout for this during basketball and wrestling season as well, and also during the spring. Another new program that we have this year that was just started up is called the Art Captaincy Student Athlete Association. I've been sitting around coming up with this idea because I feel like we need to do everything we can to try to build leaders up, not only in our school, but in our community with our students. So the basis behind the program is it's only for 8th grade. You have to have good academics. You also have to receive a recommendation from your coach, okay? So your 7th grade year, each coach will nominate 2 students. Then those students must go get a teacher recommendation letter, which a lot of our students did a really great job in getting multiple letters this year. And we've already met twice, discussing school culture, different theme ideas for athletic events, and just overall trying to help build a better school community. So I'm really excited for this program. I think it's going to be very huge, and I think it's already impacted our kids in a way to be able to look at things from a different scope and see it from not only from their point of view, but also from the teacher's point of view as well, and coming together. So looking forward to it.
The climate at Memorial here is really great. We've been focusing a lot this year on helping students build skills to help them later in life, not just within the school. My favorite part is being a new teacher to Memorial is definitely how welcoming all of the teachers have been, and I've also seen this with all of our new and returning students as well, which has just been really great and welcoming and really feels like home.
My favorite thing about Memorial is the fact that it allows me the opportunities to explore many of my passions that I had starting as a student in middle school and high school and continued through my adulthood. On top of me directing the choirs here for Southeast Lyndhurst, I've also had the opportunity to direct shows, to write plays, and put them on, to create a news broadcast for our students, and even get back into coaching cross country, which I did this past year. It's truly a place where I have learned a lot about myself as an educator. I've spent the last 6 years here, and I've grown so much over these last 6 years than my first 10 years of education. So I'm forever grateful for the guidance that I've received from staff, from admin, and just the ability to truly be myself and experience things that I probably wouldn't in another district or school.
All right, your round of applause to Memorial Day. I just want to reiterate, Dr. Fuller, this is her third year now, right? Over there, second? Third? Yeah, it's her third year, and just seeing the transformation that's taken place over there, watching her grow as a leader. Her staff's phenomenal, and the students really buying in to that piece, and that family culture that's being built over there has been really exciting to see. So,
Item
one more.
2.4.
Yep. Ready? Okay.
All right, and we have the thing with the mic. Do I need a mic?
Yes.
Just this one, just grab it.
Don't forget your team.
All right. Is it on? Hey, can you hear me? Is it on? Thank you. All right. Happy October report card presentation. So we're going to go. So I think a couple years ago I went over the changes to the report card. So we're just going to go over what we have and then how that and what we've done and what we're going to do. And I want to thank my team. If I get stuck, I don't pretend to know everything. Leanne and Ron and Tammy and Ryan Morton somewhere in TV land over there. We work really hard together to make sure we provide everything we need to get our teachers teaching and our students learning. So this is kind of a celebration a little bit because I think we have some really good points to shout out. So our 23-24 report card, we ended up with a total of 3.5 stars. So we maintained from last year. And so we were pretty proud of that because as you're going to see in the presentation, the bar doesn't stay the same all the time. And so we definitely have to keep working harder and harder to make sure we are maintaining and exceeding. Are you the clicker? Clicker guy, okay. So a real quick review on how you get that 3.5 stars. This is kind of like the little pie of what those weights are for each one of those components: achievement, early literacy, gap closing, graduate, and progress. Next year, you're going to see another piece, And it's a college career military workforce ready one. So that'll be added to that piece of pie on there. But that's how they make up that 3.5 stars. And here are our schools. So our school ratings, we're actually pretty proud of them. I mean, we really did a wonderful job. The teachers and the principals really did a wonderful job. Adrian at 3.5, Roland at 3.5, Sunview at 5, Greenview at 3.5, Memorial 3, and Brush 3.5. And really, that's a pretty good achievement for us. I mean, I think we work really hard, and again, that bar changes. So we're always competing. There's a competition a little bit with the top 2%. You're going to see that in the achievement piece. So first is achievement, and we have a 2 in achievement. And achievement used to be, a long time ago, used to be you hit that 80, how many of those tests hit that 80% passage mark? Well, that's different now. The percent of passage right now is just report only. But what is a component, what puts into this component is the performance indicator. And what you see in a performance indicator is how many students you're moving from one level to another. From limited to basic, how many you move from basic to proficient, from proficient to accomplished, to advanced, and to advanced plus. And then you see they're all weighted. And you get so many points for that. And then you come up with this wonderful formula, and you get points. And then you take those points for your performance index score, and this is where the bar changes. You divide it into that maximum district. So what happens is the top 2% of the schools in Ohio, whatever they have, that average, is that baseline, is that denominator. So whatever they score in that top 2%, that's what we're always chasing.
Does that say 109 or 1.3?
It's 109.3. That was the number of maximum points, right? And then they take that, and they give you a percent, and then here's your grid. And that's how you earn it for your achievement. So this is about moving kids from one level to the next. And the one I want to point out, and this is why we work really hard, that may seem like a little number, 1.4%, but guess what it's times against? So it really hurts us when we don't get those kids tested. That's EOCs and end of courses and the OST. All right. So what I did is I put a couple little slides together just to show the PI and the achievement for each of the buildings, because I think that's what's important, because we talk a little bit about all the time that Tier 1 instruction is that core instruction, it's that on grade level, because we need to move those kids to be proficient. So we kind of wanted to take a look at this slide for 2 reasons. One, because we want to see what we are doing as far as moving those kids up. And you're going to see over here, it goes in the same order. It's Adrian, Roland, and Sunview, what their PIs were, and what they got according to the PI, and then divided, and you got to the top 2% of the buildings. That's different, because it's by building, not by district. By districts, it's 109. This is 102. Or I'm sorry, I can't remember what it was. It's up there somewhere. But the other one I wanted to show you is this. We ask you to pass iReady every year, and it's a very hefty bill, right? But this is why we like it. It predicts pretty well where our kids are going to be on that end of course OST assessment. And it's been pretty consistent, I think, since we've had it, for the past 3 years. So we take iReady in the fall and the winter and the spring. The winter is the one we look at because that's the one closest to to the OST. And you can see it's pretty close. 9 times out of 10, it's even below what we score.
So what's in the parentheses underneath is what iReady was in the winter. That we scored. Okay.
So this says, this was 60% of our kids at Adrian in 3rd grade were proficient. And then on the OST, we ended up with 69.7. So that's why we ask for that, because it is a predictor, and it helps teachers gauge where their classes are, and it helps buildings gauge where their kids are throughout the building. And it is in conjunction with our iReady pathways. We talked about that a little bit, the iReady pathways, which is individual to students, which takes them where they are and gets them where they need to be on that grade level. So I wanted to show why we use that iReady and why we ask you to pass that every year and why we're spending that money, because it does help us. And it helps principals and teachers be able to predict. So that's Adrian, Roland, and Sunview. And this is Greenview. And then as you notice, as we're going to go on, I-Ready only goes up to 8th grade and it doesn't have science, so that's why there's no data on there. But then here's, as you look over here, what their score is and what they got in each grade level, and those are combined for that building. And then you can go to Memorial. This was the one that we are looking and we have questions at, because if you look, this was a big eye-opener, right? In the winter, we're scoring 35% of our 7th graders in math were passing, but on the OST, we only had 16%. So let's start to ask those questions. What happened, right? What happened? The other shout-out is this. 100% of our algebra kids at Memorial passed with proficient, and I will tell you most of them passed with advanced. And Memorial has done a really good job of using data to put those students into those algebra classes. Because I know we all want our kids to excel and succeed, but this is a high school credit in 8th grade. If they fail this, we're not setting up for success, right? So we have to make sure they're ready. So we use a rubric, and we use Iowa, and we use some data points to make sure we're placing kids who are ready for this. There's no hurry for everybody, but who's ready, they're ready. And so we had 100% passage for that 8th grade. And then you have brush. And take a look at theirs. Now, again, no I-Ready at this, so we don't have that predictor. So this is just their total percent of passage, and then their PI. And if you remember, that calculation would be the same, and that's how they end up with a 2. Any questions on achievement? On that? All right. This is another one, progress. This is the old value added. You probably hear value added all the time. This is progress. This is how do we do in pushing those kids up and getting them to grow. How are we growing kids? So this is a little different now too, because you get a yearly progress report. Teachers will look at that and they'll see what they did for a year. But on this report card, it starts taking trend data. So it starts taking 3 years of trend data. And if you look, it'll say, if you have 3 years of trend data, which we do now, it'll be, I think it's 50% of this year's, and then 25% of last year's, and then 25% of the combined of the 2 years. So this is just not 1 year. This shows you over time. How do we grow kids? And there's 2 components. It's how much do you grow them, and how's the effect size? What's the magnitude? So what I did here, because I knew I'd forget the colors eventually. So if you look, this dark blue, that means there was significant evidence that expectations were met by a large margin. So if you look at that 5th grade team over the years have made gains that were significant. If you look at the green, that means there's evidence that they met expectations. So we're still doing well with kids. We're still moving them. If you look at this blue over here, it says significant evidence exceeds expectations, but it's different because the magnitude wasn't as large. So how many of those kids do you affect? What is the bigger the group, the more kids you move, the bigger the magnitude. And that gets very confusing, by the way. And then if you look at, if the red was significant, did I say that right? Yeah. There you go. See, I got to check with them too. The red is significant evidence we fell short. So that means we didn't move them, and we didn't move them a lot, and we didn't move a whole lot of them, right? And then this one is significant evidence fell short of expectations. So all the colors mean something. So this is that big growing kids. It's do we grow them? Do we get them better? And they're compared to the state. If you look on here, it's not like I'm comparing me to Crystal and I'm comparing me every year. It's really compared to statewide expectation of growth. So that's where we are there. And we have a 3, which means we're doing okay. But when you look at this, where do you see the drop? Go ahead, Erin. Ms. Lee.
Because am I supposed to ask questions at the end?
No, you can ask him now.
So then my question to this is, and I don't know about, so then my question to this, if you're showing me that in certain areas we're meeting and we're looking So then my question becomes, when we get that transient population that we know for sure that our district does have, and when we're losing kids in those grade levels for sure, those numbers, then that affects us.
So here's the thing, when you link, so teachers go through this thing called a linkage process, and when they link, you link for the kids that you've had all year, or you link them for a certain time. So those kids only count for a certain period. Ron, correct? There we go. I'm just double checking, because I never know when I say something that is, yeah, so like when I go to link, if I only had you for 6 months, I'm only linking you for South Euclid for 6 months, and there's a whole calculation in that.
Even if that child at the previous school district was horrible and did nothing.
They only count when I have them. Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yep. Any other questions on that? All right. This one is gap closing. This is looking at our student population and our categories, and are we closing that gap to make them all proficient in the same way? But it's a little weird and it's a little different, because what they do is they set targets for us. You'll see it on this piece right here. Like, for example, I just pulled achievement. They set targets of percentages that our student population should meet. So we start closing that gap between subgroups. And you only count for certain subgroups. You have to have a certain population. So if you can see, like, these possible points might change because we don't have a subgroup in that particular area, right? So you can see this gap closing is all these things put together, and they look at the achievement of ELA and math. They look at the growth. They look at graduation. They look at English language learners. This is where chronic absenteeism comes in, and the gifted. So all those pieces and parts are put together, and then they come up with a score, and they say, here's your possible points you could have earned, and here's what you've earned. Now, some of these, for example, like attendance, it's a 0 or 5. It's not like you get a 3 or a 2. It's just an all or nothing kind of thing. So some of these, it's like if you meet it, you meet it. If you don't, you get the 0, right? So when we look at this right here, and we say, okay, where are our subgroups? And we have all students, and then we have Hispanic, economic disadvantage, Asian Pacific Islander, multiracial, English learner, Black non-Hispanic, white non-Hispanic, and student with disabilities. So if you look at where we've, I would say, fallen short a little bit in certain categories, like one of them is the students with disabilities, and the ELA, and in the math. And so when we talk about students with disabilities, and when you start seeing what I'll show you in a little while, what are we doing? That's when we look at that co-teaching model. That's when we look at kids in that classroom. How are you using ISs with that classroom teacher? How are we getting those special ed kids access to the core curriculum? What are we doing for them? Because that's what we have to focus on, closing these gaps right here. You see the difference between the two. And it's the same with the growth model. I think we asked that question a while ago at the board meeting, and I wanted to make that point. So now we look at this data and we say, okay, what do we have to do differently? And so that's one of the things that I think Mr. Kaple had a charge, and I think he explained that at the beginning. He's like, how do we get kids to access the curriculum? And how do we get them in their least restrictive environment? And Jen knows, Ms. Moles knows all about that. And how do we make use of those teachers in the classroom to address those needs? This is another one. This is, oh yeah, go on. Yeah.
On one of the gifted lines, it was a 0 out of 5.
Okay.
The other 2 were 5 out of 5.
So gifted progress is that, remember we talked about progress is growing those kids. We're doing gifted identification is if we identify them or we servicing them, and we do a really good job at this. This is hard. Remember what I told you about PI? We are up against the top 2% of whatever they score. That's who we're competing with, right? It is very, very hard. And I think this has been a very discussion against many districts, is how do you meet that? Because this is another all or nothing. Okay. There's no 1, 2, 3, or 4. You either meet it or you don't. So if you have gifted kids at the advanced level, right, how do you get that advanced plus? Well, that's when we start looking at acceleration. Are we accelerating kids? Are we accelerating the right kids? We look at that algebra, remember that algebra, that 100%. Are we putting kids in the areas to succeed? Right? And that's how we have to start looking at this, because this is very difficult for districts to meet, because PI is always with that top 2%. that help you? All right. You guys are allowed to yell at me if I'm saying anything wrong. All right. Early literacy. So this is our little babies. This is our little babies. This is, we got three stars on this one. And there's a components that are part of early literacy. Promotion to the 4th grade, scores on the OST, and then these are those babies that get those magic words that you've probably heard, RIMPs. So these are the kids that are on and off track, right? This is a hard one. It takes a while to digest because it's like a multi-year thing. So these are the kindergartners that take the KRA in the fall, and then they take the iReady in the fall of their 1st grade year, and then we figure out, did we move them on or off track? So all the reds are kids that we did not. All the blues are the kids that we have. All these kids are on RIMPs, right? This is another, what do we do? How do we help solve this problem? And we've talked a lot about how do we help these teachers? That's a lot for a teacher. How do we help these teachers address these needs for these kids? And one of the things we did this year is we departmentalized 2nd and 3rd grade. Because we have 2 robust curriculums. We have Envision and we have HMH for ELA. Those are very rigorous, in-depth curriculum programs. And for a teacher, that's a lot. So we decided in 2nd and 3rd grade, let's simplify and let's pair teachers up and become experts at their subject so we can help have more time in ELA. So now we went from 90 to 120 minutes of ELA and 90 to 120 minutes in math. Another thing we did, because we did departmentalize in the K through 3 land, we took science and social studies and we pulled them and embedded them into art connections in STEM. Because one of the things we heard from teachers in K through 3 world is getting to science and social studies is really hard. And I've got to figure out how to do that. And so we thought, well, we've got these 2 wonderful electives. STEM is a science and math technology-based class. And Art Connections deals with social emotional pieces and community and family, and all those things are social studies skills. So we asked the Art Connections and social studies teachers, would you be willing to do this? Embed those standards into your curriculum already and let the core teachers get our babies better in math and reading. And so that's what we're doing this year. So they have lots of time to work on these 120 minutes in ELA is a lot of time. Yep.
Are the diagnostics for the elementary school similar to iReady? Do they use iReady also, or?
They use iReady.
They do.
The only ones that we start off with kindergarten with KRA, because that's what we have to use by the state. But yeah, it's iReady 1 through, or actually K through 8, because we do later on use iReady, but it's all the way through 8th grade. Any questions on early literacy? All right. Graduation, we went up to a 3. We have a lot of talk about this. Remember, this is a year in arrears. So this is always, even though it's on the 22-23 report card, it's the class of 2022. So we actually did better. We did move up. We got a 3. I think we put a lot of work in that. One of the things we did a lot is really doing some auditing of who's on our books and who is not on our books and who should be off our books, and are they somewhere else? So we did a lot of that conversation. And we're also looking at some different things, and I think Mr. Kaple mentioned coming up, like we did do a little switch on semesters to year-long classes to get deeper into that and hopefully do remediation within that year instead of repeating a half a year. So we don't have so many kids that junior and senior year going, I need 17 credits to graduate, or I need to take this on Edmentum, or I need to do this. So we're trying to look at different ways to get more kids in that 4-year graduation rate rather than this in 5 years, because the 4 years are way too heavier. And this is the one that this right now is not part of our report card, but it will be next year. So this is a very, we're still wrapping our head around this one, I think. We're learning what counts and what doesn't count, and how do we capture all this information. So this is college, career, workforce, and military readiness. And so there are two major components, and if you can click on that link for me, that would be awesome, because I couldn't do this all in one slide. So the first part is this post-secondary readiness. So this takes all of our students and figures out how well are we doing getting our kids ready for a college, career, military, workforce. So these are the components of this. Some of them are report only, which means they're just telling you, and some of it will be calculated into the component. This again is a year in arrears. So this year's report card will be for last year's class, okay? So we had to do a lot of that is coding, EMIS, capturing who is where, getting kids to tell us what they're doing, getting kids to understand, what their pathway is. But if you look at this, if you can hover over like this blue right here, this will tell you exactly what % of our students are counted in that category. So how many of our students earned an honors diploma? Yeah. If you can go down and hover, oh, you're going too fast, go back up. And hover over industry recognized credential, back up in that blue one. So you receive 12 points through an industry recognized credential or a group of credentials. And then you can hover down to ACT or remediation free, to the next blue one down there. This is a big one. So remediation free means you hit that threshold in math and ELA. That means colleges think you're ready to go in and you're ready to start. There's no remediation classes. That's what ACT does, right? That we need to work on, right? 7.1. We're going to work on that. We're going to get better. We do have dual enrollment credit up here. That's 1.7. And let's explain. Dual enrollment credit is at least 12 college credits. While we have kids taking college credits everywhere, what this is saying to you is like, are you doing a comprehensive thing? Are you getting those kids ready? Do they have those 12 credits? Are they ready to enter almost as a sophomore in college, right? 1.7%. So when we talk about, a long time ago, I talked about CCP, saying like, can we get kids, if we can get kids to graduate with an associate's degree by the time they leave high school, that would be awesome, because this is an opportunity for us, right? If we score down, go on down, and then we AP, that's how many kids get credit for their AP, 1.3%. And I think you can go down a little bit more. You go down a little bit, that's okay, go down a little bit more. There's CTE, which we do much better at. And then we have this here, Ohio means jobs readiness seal and 250 hours of work-based learning. And that's something we're looking at too, because I think we're missing a lot of opportunities there. Because we do have kids who work. We do have kids who do those things. So it's like, how do you capture that? How do you make that count? And that will help them graduate as well. So that's one piece of that college and career readiness. The second piece, if you scroll, my poor Dougie's like, I didn't sign up to be your scroller person. And can you click on that? Okay, and then the other piece to this is what happens to them after they leave. So we have to start capturing data on kids who leave, and what are they doing? Are they enrolled in college? Are they working? What are they doing? So we have to come up with a whole new way of getting a hold of our graduates to say, did we prepare you? Are you sticking it out? Are you there? Are you in the workforce? What are you doing? So that's that other component. And we're thank you, baby. I know, just come right to you, Miss Lee. I'm gonna come right to you and say, you too, I'm just gonna write to you too and say, can you help us find these kiddos? Right? Can you help us find all these students? So that's basically, in a nutshell, where we are on the report card. But I also want to show you what we're doing and what we are looking at next. So if you can click to the next one.
I have a quick question.
You can, go ahead.
Okay. So on the other screen, the first screen that we saw,
Okay.
like the readiness factors, what's the difference between the gray and the blue?
The gray is just report only. It's just telling you something.
Mhm.
The blue is actually what's going to count for that,
counting piece.
the
Okay.
count for that component. Yep. So they want to tell you, here's what they want to tell you. Hey, look at all the kids you got participating in ACT and look at how many kids you get passing. That's what they're trying to tell you, right? Look how many kids you have enrolled in college versus how many are actually coming out with 12 credits or how that, so that's that report. And that's actually good for us to look at and say, we've got all these kids taking this, what's happening? What do we need to do differently? So, all right, you can go back to the PowerPoint. So, as Mr. Kaple said earlier, we're going to get better at doing the things that we have. We have the robust curriculum in K through 8. We have HMH. We have Envision. We're going to get better at doing that. We're going to focus on Tier 1 instruction, continuing that on grade level to bring those kids up from those limited and basic to those proficient scores. A big emphasis on this no new instruction for K through 6. We set this up, again, we pull social studies and science out. We got these big blocks of math and ELA, so how are we using that? We're using it for core, and then we're using that for intervention and enrichment. And we're getting better at figuring out how to do that with all kids and some teachers, right? I mean, that's a big chore, but we're working on that and how to track that data to help kids. We are continuing to use iReady benchmarking and pathways for kids, K through 8. We are continuing our data-driven discussions in DLT. We look at this data and say, what do we do? How do we do something different? What are some root causes? What's in our control? Because there's a lot of things that aren't, and we can't spend time on that, but we can spend time on what's in our control. We look at this for acceleration and honors. That goes back to your question for that P&I. Are we setting kids up with those gifted and accelerated kids to make sure they're successful and getting the most out of it? We are definitely doing this with EMIS because that's the magic, making sure we're inputting what we need to and the right things. And then this big one, that CID for teachers, that PD, what's the new, what do we need to do differently? What are you already doing that's working? What do you need help with? So we're focusing on that. And I did skip that second one. We're making sure, and this is a big one, the one thing you can control is high quality things for in front of our kids. We don't want to put things that are not vetted and the best for our kids. We have to continue that. So we have a big push on making sure that our resources are vetted and high quality. Now, where are we going when we look at this data? Well, I just told you iReady is K through 8, and we have nothing for high school. So we're looking at NWEA for 9th and 10th grade to get some benchmarking data so we can look at it and see where we are. And those are for algebra, geometry, physical science, and biology. We're looking at the junior high because what did we see at Memorial? That's probably where we need to put some more emphasis on if you look at their PI, right? What do we do to make that better? Maybe it's more time in the core instruction to give teachers lots of time instead of 48 minutes to maybe address some needs of kids. And then how does that intervention look in junior high and high school? It's different, right? Elementary and elementary and even Greenview, we can do no instruction. K through 8 teachers teach everything. They're masters of everything. But then you start getting in junior high and high school, and it's a little different because I don't think we want our ELA certified teachers trying to teach geometry. That might be a problem, right? So we have to figure out how does that look then in high school. And then we did the departmentalization. We did the embedded science and social studies, and we're continuing that. MTSS is a big one. We're putting a big push on multi-tiered support systems. How do we look at kids? How do we help them? How do we look at intervention? And for junior high and high school, who's on and off track? And how do we get them in 7th and 8th grade, not in 11th and 12th? Like, how do we start those conversations then? Alignment of high school courses and ACT standards. You saw the data, right? We have got to see how we can look at some of those courses, ELAs and all those those electives or those higher level courses, how are we making sure that we are embedding ACT into those courses? Because we do have an ACT prep, but one semester course is not going to do it for us. You saw the numbers, right? So we're going to have to start looking at that. Like, how can we naturally embed those standards in there? We talked about co-teaching, making sure we close that gap. So we're looking at, there's 6 models of co-teaching. We're really looking at 2. We're really looking at, we're partner teachers, I'm working with a group, you're working with a group on their needs. Or we're looking at, we're both team teaching, and we're both contributing to that classroom. So we're gonna do a lot of PD and some shifts in mindset on that, because we want our special ed kids in those tier 1 classes as much as possible. That's where we want them. And then increasing college and career planning for students 7 through 12, and I'm starting with 7, but hopefully we'll get down even lower, but I'm gonna start with 7th grade. Start talking to kids in 7th grade. What do you wanna do? Where do you wanna go? What do you wanna be? Because that planning helps them select courses in that high school. If I wanna be a scientist and I'm limited in my 8th grade science, then I have to have a conversation what that looks like. What do I need to get better at if this is what I wanna do? So that's a big charge of ours too. So we look at the report card data and we see where we need to make decisions, and then we come up with how do we do things differently. And so that's the report card presentation. Any questions?
That's a lot. I can imagine your brain is probably.
That's why they're here, to make sure that because it is a lot. Yes, Ms. Falkenberg.
Yeah, are there opportunities for the memorial teachers and the high school rush teachers to discuss how best they can, prepare students?
Yeah, we've done a couple of vertical alignments. So like I will tell you for math especially, because we have this new Envision courses, our CID days is it's the 7th grade teachers all the way to the Algebra 2 teachers to see how that looks. And they're getting PD actually with an Envision's coach. So they do a lot of alignment. I know we're looking at, so 8th grade is doing that HMH. So right now the ELA teachers are focused on HMH, and the high school is going to be piloting that. So as soon as they pilot that, then they will also work together on that. So we are planning it, because that is important.
Yeah.
Right? Especially, we can't, like the ACT prep and all that stuff, it's great, but those strands can be woven early and often in certain classes. So we're doing it with math right now because we're embedded in Envisions. HMH is still starting, so the junior highs are getting used to that curriculum. High school will pilot it, and as soon as that's done, they will have time to collaborate on that as well. Yep. Anything else? Yeah.
I know Mr. Kaple mentioned that at the high school they're moving from semester classes to year-long classes. What about the kids who are the honors and gifted kids who learn at a faster pace that don't need the year-long classes?
So that's what we're looking at, different options too, and that all goes back to whole big vision. That goes back to scheduling. That goes back to CCP. That goes back to a lot of things, because when you think about it, part of the reason for the semester versus the year-long class, and there's good and bad about both, but what happens is we get so bogged down with half a credit scheduling in that second half that sometimes our teachers who could be teaching an elective are teaching a half a class of Algebra 1 or ELA 1. Or we have students that, as a freshman, come in and they're all crazy, right, as freshmen, and they mess up that first semester, they get that F, they pass the second semester, they pass the end of course, and then I gotta go somewhere back here and take Algebra 1 again, somewhere, right? So that's part of the reason why we're looking at that and how that looks. But for honors, it could look totally different for an honors track. It could look different for CCP. It all depends on what we have, and it all depends on scheduling. And that's another thing we talk about, when we talk about programming. For example, right now at Greenview, we have a 4th grade accelerated class that we probably are going to accelerate to a 6th grade math, because they are that advanced. They are there. So we are looking at, okay, what do we do? These kids are way above here. They're scoring on, we do in Iowa. So what does that look like for them? Does that mean I'm gonna do that every year? Maybe not, right? So I think it all depends on where our kids at and what we have and what the schedule looks like. And I think we'll have a way better grasp on that, because now we have, again, another transition high school team, and We had some changes some places. So we're really looking at what does that look like? Does it look like, do we have all year long classes at 45 minutes? Do we have block classes at freshman and sophomore level for algebra and ELA 2 that are just a semester that you get? I don't know what that looks like, and it all depends. So, I mean, that goes into a lot of planning, and depending on the number of kids you have, you might have, you know, one year we might have a 60-year or 60-kid honors track, and the next year we might have 12. So I think that depends on it. And I think we have to look at those needs. And so that's where this part comes. This is why this is important, because we should be forecasting our high school schedule in 7th and 8th grade. We should be looking, okay, this is the track. Here's what we have coming up. Like I said, we have a Greenview group of kids that we're gonna be teaching geometry in junior high somehow. And how do we do that? Does that make sense? Okay. Anything else?
I just wanted to say a couple remarks based off your question. It goes back to what I said earlier and the mindset that we have to have as a district, and it goes back to evolving with purpose, right? So, we got to embrace that world our students are living in. So, like Mrs. Bastock just said, not all schedules are going to be created equal. We might have some skinnies, we might have some blocks. We have to evolve, we have to have some flexibility, and that's where I want to get to as a district, so we can meet those needs of those students. And what does that look like? Another thing that was up there was the attendance piece, and yes, we got a 0, and that's a all for naught, right, type of score. So you either get a 0 or a 5, and the way that looks is attendance, if less than 36.7 school district can hit that mark, they decrease that rate by 3%. So that's our goal. So our SSSs hold meetings. It's a Miss Bussey charge over in pupil services. So they're all focused on that decreasing by 3%. And if we can do that in each building, that will get us that 5 for 5. And then just to tee everybody up, very excited to announce, I don't want to go into details about it today, but we just were awarded a huge grant through the ESC collaborative in the first ring, and it's something called Gear Up. And when we talk about Mr. Hall, Eddie Hall, who he will be presenting to you guys in December on what that is. We were just updated today. It's fresh off the presses, so I haven't talked to anybody else other than Eddie and Mrs. Bastock. And what that will do is we will start tracking and talking to kids about college and career readiness with our 6th and 7th grade cohorts. And they will be tracked all the way through. So very excited about that. And again, we'll hit a lot more on that, but just wanted to put a little plug in everybody's ear today. So, and give a shout out to her team over there, Ms. Bishko, Mr. Johnson, and Ms. Riesland. They do a lot behind the scenes. Obviously, our teachers are on the front lines. Everybody knows what they do. Our kids are starting to adapt. There's been a lot of changes, and they're all good changes. And now we got to get great at what we have. So I'm excited to see what happens in the future.
I have a quick question regarding the attendance push.
Yeah.
I know at the beginning of the year we talked about some ways that we were going to encourage kids to come,
Yep.
to not have any missed days.
Sure.
Is there anything that seems to be working there? Or?
Yeah, I will say I'll give a shout out to Miss Imler and the Cleveland Browns. The stay in the school. The Browns have actually honored us with, they're actually going to dedicate a whole room at Memorial for kids, driven around attendance, and that incentive has been huge. And to our assistant principals and our SSSs who are making those phone calls, who are starting to track kids from day one. Just to use a story that Ms. Bussey shared with me at one of our status meetings, Mr. Atwood, for instance, over at Memorial, I think she went to the meeting really early on, and they were already on kids, calling home, asking Ms. Bussey and her team to go knock on doors to see where they're at and to find out where they do, and it's what they do.
And I will say that MTSS process that's up there, that framework here, this is not just for academics. They're in partnership with their department, so there is a push on the MTSS with attendance and behavior along with the academics, because most of the time they're not mutually exclusive, right? Like, so we have to make those connections. So that is a push.
Good.
All righty.
Thank you so much. That's a lot, but it's working. It's a lot more benchmarking and tracking than we've ever had. I don't see why we don't hit all the more components with these processes, especially if we follow through with them.
A little late, should I say?
Mr. Hill, do we have any public comment?
None.
Hearing none. Skip that piece. Item 3.1, minutes. The minutes of the special meeting of October 15th, 2024 will be approved as recorded or corrected. Furthermore, the reading of these minutes will be waived. May we get a motion to approve item 3.1?
So moved.
Second.
Who's that? Ms. Falkenberg and Mrs. King? Any questions or comments? Hearing none, may we get a roll call, Mr. Hill?
Ms. Falkenberg,
Aye.
Mrs. King,
Aye.
Mrs. Jones,
Aye.
Ms. Lee,
Aye.
Mrs. Shelby.
Aye.
Right into the treasurer's report, 4.1 financial.
Good evening. Recommend for approval, item 4.1, the financial reports for month end September 2024. Item 4.2, the bank reconciliation for September 2024 month end. Item 4.3, the investment earnings for month end September 2024. Item 4.4, the 5-year forecast for November 2024 submission presented last week. Item 4.5, I believe we got 4 donations on there for approval. Item 4.6, the approval of the then and now purchase orders through 10/15/2024.
May we get a motion to approve items 4.1 through 4.6?
So moved.
Second.
Mrs. Shelby and Mrs. King? Any questions or comments? Kathryn, where's your regular thank you?
I was gonna say, like.
You
guys-
always say
I
thank
would
you
say
for
thank you
donations.
Oh, that is true. I just spent a lot of money to have my trees in the backyard maintained.
I saw.
So I was kind of looking, they got good deals, let me tell you. But thank you.
Yes.
Yeah.
Y'all know I love Dr. Beal. Thank you, Dr. Beal, for the alternative seating.
Hearing no further questions or comments, may we get a roll call, Mr. Hill?
Mrs. Shelby,
Aye.
Mrs. King,
Aye.
Ms. Falkenberg,
Aye.
Mrs. Jones,
Aye.
Ms. Lee.
Aye.
Item 5.1, certified staff.
Seeking the approval under 5.1, a certified staff. You're going to find tutors under there, as well as some paid leave of absences and unpaid leave of absences.
May we get a motion to approve item 5.1?
So moved.
Second.
Ms. Falkenberg and Mrs. King? Any questions or comments?
Absolutely. I cannot say enough wonderful things about Rebecca Kaur and Sudrinka. They have both just been fabulous teachers, wonderful role models. They've gone above and beyond their call of duty, and so it makes me sad to see that they are retiring, but boy, such wonderful human beings, and I'm so thankful for the time that we had them.
I don't know what Ms. Drinker's gonna do with herself. She's just gonna stay in Columbus and chase down brush kids. That's about all she's gonna do.
She will track all the numbers for you guys.
Maybe she'll be around as a substitute PE teacher. She's gonna have to do PE at home somehow. Hearing no further questions or comments, may we get a roll call, Mr. Hill?
Ms. Falkenberg,
Aye.
Mrs. King,
Aye.
Mrs. Jones,
Aye.
Ms. Lee,
Aye.
Mrs. Shelby.
Aye.
Item 6.
Under 6.1, requesting the approval for the following appointments. You're going to see ISAs, a couple security guards, bus aides. And also, we have a couple change of assignments, paid leave of absence, unpaid leave of absence, and substitute custodians on.
Jeez, where's your line at, Mr.
It's not right there. I think it didn't come over.
It didn't come over.
Knock, 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 can it come over?
Explain that.
I wrote it in.
There's too many.
May we get a motion to approve item 6.1?
So moved.
Second.
Mrs. Shelby and Mrs. King, any questions or comments? Hearing none, may we get a roll call, Mr. Hill?
Mrs. Shelby,
Aye.
Mrs. King,
Aye.
Ms. Falkenberg,
Aye.
Mrs. Jones,
Aye.
Ms. Lee.
Aye.
Item 7?
Under 7.1, you're going to see mostly the winter supplemental activities, as well as a couple early fall late hires and unpaid volunteers.
May we get a motion to approve item 7.1?
So moved.
Second.
Mrs. King and Ms. Falkenberg, any questions or comments? Hearing none, may we get a roll call, Mr. Hill?
Mrs. King,
Aye.
Ms. Falkenberg,
Aye.
Mrs. Jones,
Aye.
Ms. Lee,
Aye.
Mrs. Shelby.
Aye.
Item 8?
Under 8.1, seeking the approval for a resignation for retirement, somebody in the room, and the adjustment to the administrative compensation packages.
May we get a motion to approve items 8.1 and 8.2?
So moved.
Second.
Mrs. King and Ms. Shelby, any questions or comments? So if we say no,
No.
does he have to stay?
I was about to say, does he get to leave if we say no?
Now, I just want to clarify one thing on there, then we'll get to the Bill Miller celebration here. The admin packages that were proposed, that was in tandem with Josh. And when we were looking at these, one big piece I haven't shied behind this year is accountability. And what does that look like? And what this does through our evaluation systems that we've set, the goals that we've set with every individual on the administrative team. This will allow us to give 0% raises when those are deemed necessary, and also raises based off their goal achievement. So, anything you wanted to add on that?
I'd even add in the fact that it gives us the ability to also look at specific job classifications. Like if you can get, I've challenged my staff, we've talked, and if you see like just say payroll. I've challenged my staff to say like, look, if you can poll and say the rest of the Cuyahoga County school districts are here for payroll salary, so it gives the ability to even look at those individual things. So if we are grossly behind or underpaying and we continuously see turnover, it'll prevent us from losing, talents, years of experience, things like that. Keeps us competitive.
So basically, you step up with the cost of living, basically, for trending cost of living, basically.
Well, cost of living, I think that's the baseline. I think also our skilled jobs, keeping competitive with a continuously competitive market is the best way to put it. Continually increasing.
I appreciate it.
I will say that is, to be able to do that in-house and really look at that is amazing, because I know in my field of work, we're spending a lot of money on salary studies. And there's salary studies that when one group catches up, then by the time the first person that did the study is already behind. And so I feel like it is about to be a perpetual cycle of, this person down the street did a salary study 3 years ago and now we're behind. So to be able to do that and really look at that as an administration across the grid and not have to expenditure. And salary studies are costly and
Very.
time consuming. So by the time we get through it
Mhm.
our people already gonna be behind.
It's outdated, yeah.
So, to be able to have that in-house and get that done with those eyes is something that I'm grateful for.
And a shout out to Mr. Miller, the HR director over there. Yep. Hopefully he'll be with us, till the end of the year. Hopefully.
It depends on how we treat them. We do appreciate all your hard work and effort, and even your ability to want to continue with the team to help us with that level of stability. That's honorable, because I know once you take that ride to 71 South down to Columbus and look at the numbers, there's a lot of things that can be done, and you can walk away and never come back. So I thank you for all the years that you've been here with me. I remember sitting at the table trying to shake out the whole pan to see who was going to be, and it was you. So I appreciate your work. I appreciate your skill set and your knowledge base, Bill, for real. So I appreciate that.
Ditto. You're welcome.
All right. Hearing no further questions or comments, may we get a roll call, Mr. Hill?
Mrs. King,
Aye.
Mrs. Shelby,
Aye.
Ms. Falkenberg,
Aye.
Mrs. Jones,
Aye.
Miss Lee.
Aye.
Item 9, Section 9.
Under section 9, I guess under all 9 are certain contracts, that we're seeking the approval of. Impact, the OSTSS contract, one with the ESC, dealing with the LPDC.
May we get a motion to approve items 9.1 through 9.3?
So moved.
Second.
Ms. Falkenberg and Mrs. Shelby. Any questions or comments? Hearing none, may we get a roll call, Mr. Hill?
Ms. Falkenberg,
Aye.
Mrs. Shelby,
Aye.
Mrs. Jones,
Aye.
Mrs. King,
Aye.
Miss Lee.
Aye.
Item 10.
Under 10, you're gonna see some different contracts. You're gonna see a payment in lieu for transportation, and one proposal as well, and a facilities use agreement.
2 proposals?
Yep.
2 proposals, right?
Yes.
Okay. May we get a motion to approve items 10.1 through 10.5?
So moved.
Second.
Mrs. King and Ms. Falkenberg, any questions or comments?
Thank you, John Carroll, again, for allowing us to use your nice pool.
Mhm.
Yeah.
It is a nice
It
pool,
is
too.
nice, like, for
I've
real,
swam
it
it.
really
It's
is
very nice.
Thank you.
And I wanted to emphasize, under 10.3, thank you to the board and to Mr. Fuller, who's over there. This will be about 95% done now. Is that a fair estimate? With the window project. So this finishes off the windows, at Memorial. Currently, the front windows are complete. The back windows by the parking lot area, are not. Mr. Fuller was also able to cut that price, significantly for us, which was a nice win for the district. And the roofing and things, as I said last meeting, those PI dollars, we're starting the proposals, we're starting to get numbers in front of us and make our final determination on what we're gonna do, so.
Hearing no further questions or comments, may we get a roll call, Mr. Hill?
Mrs. King,
Aye.
Ms. Falkenberg,
Aye.
Mrs. Jones,
Aye.
Miss Lee,
Aye.
Mrs. Shelby.
Aye.
Item 11.
Under 11, curriculum instruction, you can see a couple contracts, on there, as well as a out-of-state field trip, and, different learning solutions that link into Title I dollars, and non-pub, request. They all deal with Title I.
May we get a motion to approve items 11.1 through 11.5?
So moved.
Second.
Ms. Falkenberg and Mrs. King. Any questions or comments?
Just this opportunity for some of our art students to go to the Pittsburgh Art Museum. What a fabulous opportunity for them.
That's a nice.
Just to, yeah,
Have you been there
to
before?
excite them.
You've been there
No,
before?
I haven't,
It's a
but I've
beautiful.
I hear it's one of the nicest.
Yeah,
It's
great
beautiful.
things about
They
it.
need chaperones.
Yeah, right.
Already,
Better know.
already approved.
Chaperones already good, nobody's answering my question.
We're good.
I'm still waiting for the Spain trip.
I'm just saying, they just said forget us.
And the Lou Interactive, some of you don't remember, it was probably 2 years ago, Ms. Falkenberg gave an update on Lou Interactives over at, I think it might have been Bay Village even, and through the grant dollars, and we were able to now have those in all of our elementary buildings and in Greenview, and hats off to the PE teachers. Pretty cool things going on in there, so.
Perfect. Hearing no further questions or comments, may we get a roll call, Mr. Hill?
Ms. Falkenberg,
Aye.
Mrs. King,
Aye.
Mrs. Jones,
Aye.
Ms. Lee,
Aye.
Mrs. Shelby.
Aye.
See no items in 12?
Nope.
Item 13?
Under item 13, exceptional students, you're gonna see contracted services agreements as, for 2 different entities.
May we get a motion to approve items 13.1 and 13.2?
So moved.
Second.
Mrs. Shelby and Ms. Falkenberg. Any questions or comments? Hearing none, may we get a roll call, Mr. Hill?
Mrs. Shelby,
Aye.
Ms. Falkenberg,
Aye.
Mrs. Jones,
Aye.
Mrs. King,
Aye.
Ms. Lee.
Aye.
Item 14, Board of Education, 14.1, do we have any information anyone wants to put out?
Is there a spring musical or a spring play coming up?
I
Does
think
anybody
we'll
know?
probably hear it right around Christmas.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, we'll have
right
all of
after
our
in
holiday
December.
concerts first coming up.
Okay.
I'll have those dates.
Okay.
I'll have them printed off the calendar, but they are on the district calendar if anybody's out there wanting to look for them.
No band concessions, nothing, you just
Nope.
gave everything away?
Nope, last game was last Friday, so, last home game, yeah.
Your assistant need any?
No, band's done.
Okay, I'm just checking, trying to make sure.
The blood drive still is going on right
Oh, the blood,
Oh,
thank you.
yes.
Blood drive is on the 29th, yes.
Failing me, Kathryn, you're failing me.
know.
This is the
Yeah,
stuff
gee.
you have.
Ms. Derrick sent us an email about the fundraiser for orchestra. I don't know if you all saw that.
And what about speaking for that
And then
class?
speaking for Ms. Stranick's class, is anyone able to do that day before I need to take a vacation day to do it? I know it's hard for you because you're at school during the day.
Yeah, and I don't think it's on a Tuesday.
Okay.
It was a Wednesday.
Yeah,
so.
and I know Ashley or Crystal, I don't know if you all, either of you took a look at that.
I don't think I got that email.
Okay, I'll forward it to you.
I'll check. Well, I keep getting the notice I should like re-log in, so it could be that.
Okay,
Okay.
well, I'll send it to your
Please
personal
do.
email though. And what's today's date?
Today,
Our next meeting is
22nd?
when?
Is it the 20? No,
We
22nd.
don't have a work session, so yeah.
For November.
So November 9th is, why does it tell us online November 9th is our next meeting?
I think we just didn't, as we get closer,
Yeah, it shouldn't be
November
November 9th.
9th is a
Never.
Saturday.
I know,
And that's when-
It says what it says online, that's what I'm
We
saying.
never have a work session for November because of Capital Conference.
I know, I'm
Right.
saying online though.
We'll have it
it's-
updated.
Thank you.
It says
And we
Saturday?
leave that's the
Is it Saturday,
10th.
November 9th?
11th, right? 11th, 12th.
Capital Conference,
10th, 11th, 12th.
Education,
Yeah, Capital Conference.
10, 11, 12. Yeah, it does say Saturday, November 9th, Board of Education regular meeting.
That's why I had to check for myself. to make sure. Because I was like, I don't think we did.
No.
Well, since we are elected officials and we do have our due diligence, we do want to encourage everyone to vote. At the upcoming election, we will not tell you who to vote for, but we will encourage everyone to go out and get the vote out.
Guess that was it, Kathryn.
And think about our school, public schools.
And think about our public schools when you do vote.
So we have
And then
Capital
also
Conference.
check your voting location.
Yes, please check your voting locations and check to make sure you are still on that list and you're going to the right place, please.
True.
So everybody's going to Capital Conference, right?
Except you.
Except president's not going.
Okay.
Is that okay?
Yeah, you guys can go have fun. I miss you guys. Who has council meetings for November?
That's me.
You back in the
Yeah,
rotation?
back in-
So Crystal did her first set of council meetings by herself.
I heard.
She survived, she did well, she conquered, she
Oh.
represented.
I did want to ask, do you guys give the council a copy of your report every
No.
time?
I never give it
Oh.
to them. You do?
No, but
Did they ask for it?
Lyndhurst asked for a copy, and
No.
I tried to
They're
send it.
usually scribbled on my
No,
notepad.
because me
and-
and Stephanie used to send them to Kelly. Stephanie and I will
Okay.
send ours to Kelly.
all right.
But if you don't have yours, you don't have to.
I mean, I have it, it was printed, but I didn't, yeah,
We would just send it to send it as a,
okay.
the opinion, I think.
So-
But all I send now is, honestly, I don't send anything anymore because they get, Kristen's emails. So literally everything that I would say is normally on, she does, everything is really thorough on those emails. So if you want to, you can utilize that as a thing for your reports. That bi-weekly that we get that
Oh.
goes out.
Oh, I just usually type.
Okay. Well, if it makes, to make it easier on you for the
Yeah.
future.
So we got
that's a
no-
good tool to use.
November 4th. And then keep mind of the South Euclid one. It is Tuesday, November 12th because of Veterans Day. But you won't be,
Oh, yeah.
so you won't be coming. Just send, if
Can we
you,
do the last, because they have it twice a month.
check their website though,
Okay.
because when they get towards the end of the year, sometimes they don't go
Oh,
into.
okay.
And then you figure that last week of November is Thanksgiving. So email Keith Benjamin
Okay.
and ask him, or if it doesn't show. And if not, if they don't have one, you can just give them your report and let them know you'll be in Columbus.
Okay.
Anything else? Nothing more? No new and unfinished business? Any more public comment, Mr. Hill?
None?
I see none either. There is no need for executive session today at all. It is now 7:02. May we get a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second.
Ms. King, Mrs. King, and Ms. Falkenberg? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Thank you for joining us. Have a great evening. See you soon.
Yeah,